Ever get that pit in your stomach, when a project just comes to a screeching halt because someone didn't get paid?
Oh, yeah.
Happens all the time in construction. But thankfully, there are systems in place to try to, at least mitigate those issues sometimes.
Right.
And that's what we're diving into today, this whole world of these payment things in construction, specifically something called a Statutory Declaration of Progress Payment Distribution, which sounds very intimidating.
It does, yeah.
But we're going to break it down. We're mainly going to be looking at these forms, CCDC 9A and 9B.
Right.
And so, just to set the stage here, these forms are used in contracts to try to make sure that everybody who's working on a project is getting paid.
Yeah, they're essential. From the general contractor down to, if you're thinking about like someone who's putting in the drywall, doing the electrical, everyone on that chain needs to be making sure that they're getting paid, and this is how they do it.
Yeah, and that they're all on the same page too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As far as when those payments are supposed to happen.
That's right.
So, okay, before we get too far, let's define this term here.
Yeah.
Statutory declaration.
Okay. So think of it almost like, when you see in court, someone has to like swear an oath. Yeah. They put their hand on the Bible. This is kind of like the construction equivalent of that. It's a very, very serious form. You sign this in front of a witness, and basically you're saying everything on this form is true, and I'm putting my name, my professional reputation on the line here.
So it's like legally binding then.
Legally binding, and that's why it's so important, especially because in construction we're dealing with a lot of money.
Yeah.
So this is just adding that extra layer of protection.
Okay. So yeah, not just like, casual paperwork.
No.
This is serious stuff.
Very serious.
And so these forms, specifically 9A and 9B, they're sort of variations on that, but specifically for construction.
Exactly, yeah. And just to be clear, so the 9A is for the general contractor.
Yep.
So the main person in charge of the project, and then they're going to be hiring all these subcontractors. So if I'm a subcontractor, I'm going to be filling out a 9B.
Okay. And what does that do for me as the subcontractor?
So imagine you are a subcontractor. Let's say you're doing tile work.
Okay.
Right. And this is a big project, like a hotel. You're doing the entire lobby. It takes you a month, 2 months. You've got employees you've got to pay. You've got materials. This is how you make sure you get paid.
Oh, okay.
So you've done all this work, and then let's say for whatever reason, the general contractor is delaying your payment.
Uh-oh.
They're not getting you the money. You have this form, and it's basically your proof, your legal proof that you did the work, you're owed this amount of money, and that you should be paid.
So it's kind of like an insurance policy.
It is. It's your protection as a subcontractor. So that's why it's really important, especially, in these big projects, because you hear these horror stories of people not getting paid. This is trying to avoid that.
That makes a lot of sense because, if you're a smaller subcontractor, you don't necessarily have the leverage that a big general contractor might have.
Exactly, yeah.
So this kind of levels the playing field a little bit.
It levels the playing field, and it also it keeps everyone honest.
Yeah. Okay. So these forms have been around for a while, I assume.
They have, yeah.
Have they always been, on the up and up, or were there, loopholes and weird things?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because actually there was a bit of a catch-22
Okay.
with these forms, and this is something that thankfully they've updated. But in older versions of the form, subcontractors were sometimes required to declare that they had been paid before actually receiving the money.
Wait a minute.
Which doesn't make any sense.
How do you sign something saying you got paid if you didn't get paid?
Exactly. And that's where, it created a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So thankfully in 2018, they updated these forms, and now they're much clearer and they've addressed this issue.
Okay.
So you're not put in that situation anymore. But it's just interesting how these forms have evolved over time.
So it's not necessarily that they got rid of this requirement to show that you've been paid, but just the way that it's worded now.
The way it's worded, exactly. It's all about the wording and making it clear and transparent for everybody.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. So in their current form, how do they help everybody? I'm thinking about, me.
Yeah.
I'm a homeowner.
Right.
What do I care? Why is this important for me to know about?
That's a great question. So let's say you are hiring a contractor to, I don't know, renovate your kitchen.
Okay.
You want to make sure that the general contractor is paying their subcontractors on time, because if they're not, what happens? The project gets delayed,
Oh, yeah.
right? Materials might not show up. You might have liens put on your property.
What's elite?
A lien is basically a legal claim on your property.
Oh, no.
So if a subcontractor doesn't get paid, they can actually put a lien on your property even though you're not the one who hired them directly. So it's in your best interest to make sure that the payment is flowing down the chain. And that's where these declarations come in, because they make everyone accountable. The general contractor has to declare what payments they've received and how they've distributed those funds.
So they've got to show their work, basically.
They have to show their work, and it just keeps things transparent and hopefully avoids those nightmare situations that we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, the transparency thing seems really key here.
It is, and I think it's just good business practice in general.
Sir, yeah.
Whether you're in construction or any other industry, being upfront and honest about payments is crucial.
What happens if, like, someone's listening to this and they think, oh, I can just, fudge the numbers a little bit?
Well, you don't want to do that, because remember, this is a sworn statement.
Okay.
This has legal weight. There have been cases where contractors have tried to game the system, inflate progress claims, and it has not ended well for them.
Really?
We're talking hefty fines, even being barred from bidding on public projects.
Wow.
So it's really important to take these forms seriously and fill them out accurately and honestly.
So it's like, yeah, don't mess around with this stuff.
Don't mess around. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth jeopardizing your reputation and your business.
Okay, so that's good advice.
And it's not just about avoiding negative consequences. It's also about building trust.
Okay.
When everyone is upfront and honest about payments, it fosters a much more positive and productive working relationship.
It's like any relationship.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be upfront and honest.
Exactly. Communication is key.
Yeah. So it sounds like these declarations are kind of a big deal.
They are. They're a really important part of the construction industry. They provide a framework for fair and transparent payment practices.
Well said.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, what other kind of legal stuff is out there
Oh, yeah.
that we don't even think about.
Tons.
But we should.
Exactly.
We'll save that for another deep dive.
Another day.
But yeah, hopefully now our listeners have a better grasp on these statutory declarations of progress payment distribution.
Absolutely.
Might be a mouthful, but very important.
Very important.
All right. Well, until next time.